yes, another Far Cry!
Yes, another and another! Until you come to your senses!
I pre-ordered my game in 2019, 1 year and 2 months in advance, thinking that it would be released with PlayStation 5 in 2020. Foolish me. I've played Far Cry 6 for over 3 weeks now. Was it worth the wait? Is the game for you? Well, let's find out. The main questions around Far Cry, for me at least, are usually as follows. Is the main villain evil enough? Is the story itself captivating? How big is the map? And how interesting is the setting? Rarely I question graphics and gunplay mechanics in Far Cry games, since they are always on similar standards basically, meaning that if you buy Far Cry, you know exactly what you're going to get. First things first, the menu. As the game begins, you hear this.
Press cross button to start.
A voice-guided menu that you can switch on and off. The problem is that you can't switch it off when it first starts.
Press cross button to start.
So every time the game begins, you hear this.
Press cross button to start.
Why on earth does the voice need to be so horrible sounding? It gives me the creeps. Why couldn't you just use voiceover guys similar to Resident Evil? The menu itself is massive, and I mean massive. It's the largest amount of options I've ever seen in a Far Cry game. Everything, vision, hearing, motor skills, cognitive, motion and color related is customizable. All of the HUD and other option settings show you an exact preview of what these options do. You can also change the game elements like rank up pop-ups, world icons and health bars. You can completely hide them and thus have a clear screen. This basically promotes a really authentic gameplay. It's massive, I tell you. Graphics themselves are fine. It all reminds me a bit of more 2016 than a new gen, but overall the world looks nice. Touching upon the setting, I love it. Tropical island, blue ocean and tiki bars. You can't go wrong with that since Dead Island's franchise. I really enjoy this scenery, a lot more than New Dawn's hillbilly countryside, a lot more than Himalayas from Far Cry 4, and a little more than Far Cry Primal. Hated those dark caves there. What Far Cry 6 brings to the table is a modern take on classic humble beginnings. Literally modern, because now you have a smartphone instead of binoculars. Since Far Cry 3, I've always been left a little disappointed after every consecutive release, and understandably so. With every game you should have some motivation to do what you do, unless you play GTA of course. With Far Cry games, for example, you need to have anger towards the main villain. He needs to be charismatic, evil and interesting enough that you need to be the one that kills him in the end. Vas Montenegro was a stellar example how to create an evil character. Vas was driven psychopath, motivated by his past and extreme drug intoxication of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to tune in our daily tortures. What? While I teach Chris how to be a man.
He had an urge to play with people and torture them to establish his control by just opening a tiny door into his mind and philosophy. This guy was so evil that you really wanted to know more about him before poking his eyes out. No other release of this franchise has lived up to this standard yet. Now we arrive to Far Cry 6. And Don Castillo, a ruthless dictator that rules with iron fist, but does it all with a certain calmness. Castillo's father had always been El Presidente of Yara, but a revolution took place and the family fortune was taken from him. And Don grew up knowing that he will become a leader one day, although he had to endure a slave labor for 15 years. You kind of see where his mentality came from. Years later, he was elected as a new El Presidente, and he promised to bring prosperity back to Yara. But, started to implement harsh policies. Now, as the game begins, Castillo is a man of power who tries to teach his son Diego how to be just as cold-blooded and firm. Diego, on the other hand, has plans on his own. As a villain, and Don is awesome. I might say that he's the only one who truly manages to rival Vas. And I understand, he might be more predictable because he has a code unlike psychopaths who act on emotion. Meaning that Anton has no remorse. ever. Whoever challenges him or even looks at him wrong will be eliminated. That right here is the tension needed to make him believable and evil. So I love the game setting and the main villain, very much so. The story, on the other hand, is very simple. It's kind of organize and lead the revolution against Castillo. The main protagonist, I chose female, has a weak story, a very little motivation. Yes, Castillo killed some of her friends, but it needs to be more personal, it needs to be more personal. Sadly, all the members of the revolution don't necessarily convey that their freedom has been taken away from them, and I find most of the people I met in the game, they are just unlikable. But I'm sorry to say, the ending itself falls flat and completely ruins everything that I was looking forward to. End of the story, Let's get into the nitty-gritty. The map, it's the largest map that Far Cry games have ever had. 66.77 square kilometers. Decent, very decent. And very tense and habited area. And beautiful. I can't get tired of mentioning the scenery. It's beautiful. Day and night cycle, you have outposts, you have air defenses, bases, checkpoints, collectibles, you name it. Underground tunnels, hidden locations, hidden caches. You have islands and, caves to explore and the treasures to collect. Everywhere you see, you can travel. Boats, planes, choppers, cars, ATVs, tanks. The game has it all. But what truly makes me enjoy the game is the gameplay itself. Guns do massive damage and feel awesome, especially with PS5 adaptive triggers. Machine guns pop the trigger back out after each shot. Sniper rifle trigger feels very satisfying before every headshot. Your movement is smooth and fluid, like Far Cry should be. Every gun can be modified with 3 to 5 or more attachments. Basically, you can customize everything with your playstyle. You'll also have funny backpacks that can do several things. It's called Supremo Backpack. These are unlocked throughout the game as you make your way through Yara. I use the one that launches guided missiles. It's an easy way to take down choppers. You also have the ones with EMP charge, venom dispenser explosion, and the medication ones and X-ray vision, and I don't use them. Any of those. You have pets that can attack your enemies, like crocodiles and two-legged dogs and whatever. You can change and unlock new gear, helmets, gloves, boots, and so on. Just equip as you please. Many choices. So each one of those items have unique perks. Combining all of those with your playstyle gives you an amazing variety of different possibilities. That's really awesome, actually. But I've noticed that I run around since the beginning of the game with this silly-ass, funny crocodile head. The driving is horrible, as it has been before. In Far Cry 6 it's a lot more horrible because riding horses or driving a car is like getting a manure-filled wheelbarrow through an obstacle course on an ice rink. It really is. You turn your analog stick and nothing happens, but a second later you've made 180 or hit something that wasn't there before. Thanks to the glitches and everything. I use driving or riding on rare occasions when I first need to discover a checkpoint, so I can fast travel. Jumping into a vehicle while in combat is a death sentence. Not only will you get stuck, but you'll be killed while, watching the animation of you climbing in or out of it. I'm not even going to go into water vehicles. This here is my girlfriend's run on a jet ski. She's trying to complete the time trial run. Now the funny thing is that she really tried to complete it, but somehow managed to do everything wrong. I mean, it was horrible to watch. I was sitting beside her, covering my eyes with my fingers. I couldn't bear to see such embarrassing and horrendous try. Somehow, against all odds, she managed to complete the whole thing with time to spare, making me think, did the developers know that I would fuck it all up? And gave everyone a fairly generous chance to complete the event, even when an autistic Cyclops was playing it. Not trying to make fun of autism, Cyclopses, or my girlfriend, but the game can be somewhat forgiving in many cases. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, Far Cry can make you cry. Even when you're mathematically over-leveled, you can be underarmed. And when you discover that your health drains faster than you can flush your dirt down on a mission specifically, then you start to think, What am I doing here? Why is this happening? Your bullets do as much damage as a banana thrown in the face of a gorilla. I mean, your aim against moving targets needs to be more precise than pissing into a straw 4 meters away. While you're healing yourself, you can easily bore a bowl of cereal or even masturbate. I swear to God, every possible mistake the game has comes apparent when locked into a confined predicament such as this. Luckily, there is an abandoned mission option, so you can't lock yourself into an autosave death loop, which was almost a certain case for some occasions for me. Switch on a different gear and try again. Once I did that, it was smooth sailing, so your rank doesn't matter too much. Now, shooting and gun action, as mentioned, is supreme and over-exaggerated at the same time. I mainly use shotgun in CVS and
OMG!
how the bodies fly and get stuck inside walls. The ragdoll effect is off the charts here.
I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
I think that it's funny and marvelous that they left it in. Sadly though, enemies can shoot you through walls and doors. They might even take you out with a single shot, especially the automated machine guns that you can't destroy because they are on the other side of the door. The game is riddled with bugs and glitches, sadly. AI in Far Cry 6 is stupid. They either hit you from an extreme distance that you can't even see them, or they will just aimlessly run around like chickens in front of you. Yes. So when you complete the game, you have an endgame bonus mode in the form of special operations. It requires players to deliver time bombs to earn exclusive rewards, such as armor pieces, weapons and accessories that can be seen in the third-person mode in your home base. Now what really bugs me is the ending before the endgame. Without spoiling, I basically built my arsenal to kill silently and efficiently. But still at some point the game takes all your weapons and replaces them with, well, nothing. A machine gun that barely manages to do anything. Why on earth did I go through all the trouble of finding my perfect setup for the ending? Ridiculous. Let's pull it in. This review already is too long. There are a few minigames like cockfighting, dominoes and fishing. There's an online option, which I don't see anyone playing because there's no point. The option is there and that's all you need to know. I truly hate the third-person view in the home base. I don't see the point of ruining the immersion just so you could admire your setup for 30 seconds. You can upgrade your home bases by building new shops there and get extra equipment, weapons, maps, hunting gear and other related stuff. There are nice events like Los Bandidos, which basically let your recruited officers go out and automatically complete missions. You set them and they bring back money and experience. Overall, this game is quite big with a lot of content. To be honest, it almost was one of the best Far Crys I've ever played, but they kind of ruined it with the ending and everything. They got lazy. But still, I give Far Cry 6 a 7 out of 10. But mostly, I really hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, hit that like, smash that bell, and if you dare, subscribe as well. I'm SillyLlamaz, and thanks for watching. Till next time.
Oh, big man, palo.
But mostly, I really hope that you